God bless you, and we're just so grateful that you have tuned us in wherever our voices are being heard by our radio presentation, and wherever you that are watching us through this media presentation. We're just excited about what God is doing. Those of you that are still with us with the Brinson Institute, I have again my special guest, Dr. Tony Akers. Now, this is strange. Dr. Akers, welcome to our studio today.
Thank you for having me back once again.
It is something. Now, you know what? It's kind of creative that in all the shows we always change between shows. And you wore black. You got black on. You got black on. You got black on today. I got all my colors, and we're segueing today because Dr. Tony Akers is our international director of our Wellness Institute. But one of the challenges is, in the midst of wellness, we still have life. In the midst of life, we have life and death. Isn't that something for those of us who are believers? Sometimes we don't like to talk about the reality of life and death, living and death, and living again. Now, for those of us who are believers, you know that in the Genesis narrative, we were told and given some instructions that of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we were not to eat off that tree. In the day that we eat off that tree, we shall surely die. And so somehow we ate off the tree. And so death came spiritually, mentally, and physically to the persons that God has created, and that is us. Even though Jesus came to forgive us our sins, we also now is appointed unto man once to die, and then after that the judgment. So we know that no matter what is going on in this house, and no matter how we be well, no matter how many herbs we take, and no matter how much we relate to the essential oils, and how much we can live in the flower community, that in the midst of all of that, this temple is getting older. And one day we will die. What, Apostle, what did you say? The Bible said we shall not die but live. Well, no. One day we will die. We will die. We will leave this particular earth. And those of you that believe, it says, those of us, for me to live is Christ, but to die is gain. And to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So we know one day we're going to be absent from this body, and we call it death, dying, or expired, or expiring. And so we have hospice care. We have all the different modalities of dying. Today, I want Dr. Akers to talk about, so how do we prepare? What are some of the things we need to do to prepare ourselves for the inevitable? We shall live, we have life, and after living life, there is a time that we must die. Well, don't cry. We have to keep that in mind. So, Dr. Akers, talk to us about expiring and death.
Well, one of the things...
As it relates to also wellness.
Yes.
So look over at that camera and tell those persons watching us, share with us, okay, what must we do?
One of the things that I'm working on, specifically with the churches, is something that I call the before and the after. And what that means is, what do you do before you expire? How do you live a more abundant life? We know you want to commune with God. We know you want to eat right. We want to pray right. We know you want to do those things before you expire. But how do you prepare for the after? One of the things in the Word of God, it says in Proverbs 13:22, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children.
So that means women too now.
That's correct. And how do you do that? One of the ways is making sure that you have the life insurance. And one of my experiences is in being in the life insurance industry is that I know that a lot of people are underinsured and they don't have insurance at all. And they when they expire, when they leave this earth, they leave their family holding their final expenses bag. You know, I see people on Facebook all the time doing a GoFundMe account because one of their loved ones has passed away and they were not prepared for that expiration. No man knows the day or the hour. You don't know when you're going to expire, so I say prepare for it. Just like you prepare for anything else. You insure your car, you insure your home.
That's right.
But for whatever reason, people don't insure their lives. And especially people who have a spouse and children, if you say to yourself, if I leave this earth today, would my family thrive without me? And the answer is no. Then you, as a good man or a good woman, you need to take that step to get the necessary insurance that you need to make sure you leave an inheritance for your children's children.
So therefore, the question about insurance and how we relate to inheritance is to ask ourselves the question, when I expire or when I die,
Yes.
and if I die today or tomorrow, would my children and my children's children be able to function without me in as much as I'm a caregiver now?
Absolutely. And that would include the house that you live in. Would they still be able to live in that house? That includes, would they be able to go to college if you left this earth? So there's a lot of things that need to be looked at. And one of the things that I do is I help families. When I do my herbal assessment with people, I can also sit with them and find out with them and collaborate with them. Are they ready for it? You know, no one is ready. I want to live to be 200 years old, but is that realistic? There's going to come a time where it's time for me to expire. And I need to look at my life and say, when I leave, what would happen to the ones that I leave behind? My son, my daughter, my grandchildren. So I have to prepare for that. And it's all about being proactive, because once you expire, you can't be reactive. We can be reactive with our health. You know, people smoke, they eat all kinds of foods that doesn't serve them well, then they're proactive when the doctor gives them a negative report, high blood pressure, diabetes, but you can't be reactive once you're dead and gone. So this is one situation where you undoubtedly need to be proactive.
Wow. You know, that's something, you know, sometimes it makes me think about it. Even now, I'm 65 years old, and I was just thinking about it in reflection. My dad passed away in October.
Okay.
Of the first day of October, 2016. Now, the strange thing about it, he coded September the 30th.
Okay.
2 or 3 times, and they brought him back, and he stayed around a couple of hours until the next day. And the funny part about that was, when we knew he was on his way out, September the 30th is my birthday. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, wow, I was born on the 30th of September. God took my dad on the 30th of September, but they brought him back. And he actually died after coded 2 or 3 times. He died the next afternoon at 1 o'clock on a Saturday. But it brought me back to the point that he had taken care of his business, but who would have known? Now,
right.
who would have ever known? Because January of 2016, the Holy Spirit talked to me and said, go talk to your dad. There's 14 of us and 50-something grandchildren. He said, go get a camera. Tell Dad to put a camera in front of him and tell him to prophesy to all of his sons and daughters and leave for them something just to hear from Dad. I went over there and said, Pops, you know, I was just thinking, why don't I get a camera and a DVD, and I just want you to talk to us. Each one, I'll put somebody else in the room that don't even know you, and just talk. And we're gonna put this in a safe somewhere, so later on, not knowing that in 10 months he was gonna be gone. And he got really upset. He said, I'm not going anywhere. He was 85. I'm not going anywhere, son. I didn't say that. Well, you trying to tell me I'm like Joseph? I'm like Jacob said. I said, no, Pop. He said, God, I'm going to be here for 120 years.
Wow.
And me and him talked back and forth. And then about March, April, the Holy Spirit was pushing me. Pops, well, we need to sit down and talk about, you know, where's your stuff, your insurance policies, your this and that. And he, you know, he said, you're the oldest, and he didn't want to talk about it.
Right.
Where you want to be buried. He didn't want, oh, it was very frustrating for him, and it was for me too, but I just kept feeling that we needed this. So finally, he said, okay, come on over. We sat down around April, May.
Okay.
And in September, he got sick. In October, he was gone.
Wow, and it was a good thing you had that conversation. It's definitely an uncomfortable conversation because you never want to imagine yourself on the other side. But it's a necessary conversation that needs to be had because my father died pretty young. He was only 52 when he died.
Wow.
And that was over 20 years ago, and his funeral was like $5,000. But 20 years ago, a $5,000 funeral, that same funeral today is about $12,000. It's more than double. So just think, 20 years from now, a funeral cost will go from $12,000 or $15,000 to like $30,000. So if you don't have at least $30,000 in your final expenses, then you're going to leave your family holding the bag. And I've heard some people say, well, when I'm dead and gone, they just have to figure it out.
Yes, yes.
And to me, that's
not my problem.
I think that's foolish for you to put that burden on your family, your loved ones. And another thing that I run into when I'm in the field is that a lot of women are covered insurance-wise. So if they were to pass away, the husband is taken care of. But if the husband were to pass away, then the woman and the kids are left holding the bag. A lot of men, for whatever reason, don't have life insurance. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, but I have it.
And I'm not really sure why that is. Why men, and there are a lot of men that do, don't get me wrong, but I'm just, it's like a trend that a lot of men don't have life insurance.
So is this a cultural situation or just a national situation about men? Or is it certain men of color or Asian or Chinese or African American men, or is this just general? Because, you know, people are watching us all over the world. So is this, or just that men in general tend to work hard to do other things and don't think about that?
I'm not 100% sure, but just from my experience, I have noticed that a lot of African American men don't have life insurance, and they're more afraid to talk about it. And it kind of go hand in hand with the fact that they don't go to the doctor as often as women do. So I don't know what that is, if there's something that we need to do something for the men to get them on board, but for them to be more proactive for their health, their before and their after, but they need to get on board with both.
So we need to also look at death and dying, and a good man or a woman leaves inheritance. Also, we probably need to discuss and talk about the different modalities that affect different cultures and also different countries and some of the dynamics. So we look at the African American male in America and the issues that surround African American males, single families, the whole history of slavery, and there are all kinds of dynamics in the American situation. You know, I can understand that in certain issues because, you know, even the system, how many African American men have a green card or a medical card? Because how many of them really are household keepers? Because in our communities, especially in the African American community, a male papa was a Rolling Stone or however, if he's not home, he's gone, then the support and the governmental support and other support tend to go to the female. So the medical card, the insurance, the food, and so, you know, that all of those are issues historic to the African American man, but then you have strong men who have come out of that system and they are middle class and they're working and yet still have not taken care of themselves. So what do you propose?
That's true. There's a lot of healing that needs to take place. A lot of emotional healing from the vibration of slavery, because you can carry that vibration of slavery even into this day, and that's a whole another topic about.
Because one of the psychologists talked about that the vibration of slavery still resides in the womb of the African American female today.
Yes, yes.
And our children come out angry, frustrated, PTSD,
Yes.
ADHD, and all of those. That's a whole, we're not going to even go there. That's
Right.
a whole nother show. And those of you that are watching us around the world, different cultures, and based upon the depressed of the world, there are different types of lifestyles and issues and dynamics that brings us to life, the value of life, and also dying and how one dies. So let's talk about, what do you propose as we look at the whole concept of leaving an inheritance? What are your recommendations? Let's look at that.
I think there needs to be more education, more workshops. We do a lot of workshops in the churches on a lot of different things, how to cast out demons, how to pray, how to read the Bible. We need to have more financial workshops in the church, from something as simple as how to open up a savings account all the way up to how to save for your children's children, and what can you do to leave an inheritance, other than, because your 401k and all of that kind of stuff is going to pass away with you. Your pension is going to die with you, but you can get a policy that will cover your loved ones. And people just need to be educated, because their family, their mothers or their fathers did not teach them. So we as a church, we can teach them.
Now, what about those persons that now are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and now they are investing and buying houses and whatever, but they've been told that because of their age, they cannot get insurance on the property?
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Oh, yes.
You can't get insurance on the property?
You can get homeowners insurance,
right,
but they won't give you insurance on the loan.
Wow.
Yes, that's
I haven't heard.
Yes, that's the
that
situation. In fact, I'm talking from a personal experience. My dad bought a new house.
Okay.
He was 65 years old. He bought this house, and when he bought the house, they told him that with buying the house, the bank told him that they would not put an insurance on the property, on the loan.
Right.
He had to have homeowners on insurance. He came to church. He was a bishop. He was working. He was a part of our fellowship. He came to our service that Sunday. He stood up and testified. And he said God blessed him with a new house. The old house, 15, all them years of all the family, and they moved out, mom going up the stairs and downstairs. She wanted a place where she could just walk even. He testified, and he said to it, I'm the pastor. I was pastoring then.
Right.
And he said, and God has blessed me with this new house in Hazel Crest and everything. He said, and when I bought the house, he said, they told me that they would not give me an insurance policy on my mortgage. That they would, but I could get homeowners insurance.
Right, you had to get the homeowners insurance.
But I get the homeowners insurance, and they asked him, so if something happened to you and you died, who would pay for the house? And I told him, my oldest son, Apostle Brinson, is going to pay for the house. And I was in the pulpit. I said, no, I am not. No, I am not. Well, guess what? In October, my dad passed.
Well, I know that.
And so the house is there. Mom lives there. But we're paying the note, and is all of the stuff is taken care of. But the house is was not insured for the mortgage that when he passed away was paid for.
So he didn't have mortgage insurance. I know with underwriting they do look at different things. They need to look to see if the age is always a factor. They look at to see if the person is insurable, and that there's a lot of different things that fall under the idea if a person is insurable or not. That's why I urge people to get insurance when they're young and when they are insurable, so that when they get to a space when they're not insurable, they already have something in place and that their premiums won't go up.
So for an example, in my father's situation, had he took out a $500,000 policy when he was insurable at a younger age, like 30 or 35, the house issue wouldn't even be an issue.
That's correct.
Because his insurance policy would have paid for the balance of the house anyway.
That's correct.
Okay, so say something. So that's preparation.
Yeah, so what I've been noticing is that, it's like in 5-year increments. When you turn 50, if you don't have insurance and now you want to get insurance, you're going to pay a higher premium. then when you turn 55, then when you turn 56. I mean, it's like from 50 to 55, then once you hit 56 and then 60, those premiums tend to get, they begin to skyrocket it. So people need to get insurance when they're young and when they are insurable. So that way, if things, down the road, they end up with some type of ailment that would have made them uninsurable, then they don't have to worry about that. They're guaranteed to be insured if they get insurance when they're well and when they're younger. And it's frustrating for me when I'm sitting in front of families and I'm talking about what I see that they need to secure the family, then they're constantly putting it off, saying, let me think about it. But then something will happen, and then they wish they had have gotten the insurance. By that time, it's too late.
So what would be an average age? You need to talk to the community. What average age, or what age, or is there age that you really need to be seriously doing what you say we need to do?
I think every age, because in this day and time, think about it, children are dying a lot faster. I know I have a 22-year-old daughter. Within the last, I would say, 7 months, she has lost about 6 of her friends, whether they be high school friends from gun violence to asthma attacks. I mean, young people are dying at a faster rate than when you and I were younger.
That's true.
I don't know that many people that when I was young, that a friend of mine in high school passed away.
Very sad.
But now you have a lot of young people. Some of them are dying by natural causes, but they may be a little bit more reckless than we were, but they're dying at a higher rate. And then they're leaving the mothers going on Facebook with the GoFundMe kind of a thing, and because they don't have insurance on their children. So to me, it's not an age. I think everyone should have insurance.
So we need to not think about a person saying, I need to buy insurance or have insurance because I need to leave an inheritance. At the same time, thinking about, I just got out of college, I'm gonna get married one day, so what kinds of properties and where do I see my life and what is the level of life I may live, and at this young age I need to all start looking at insurance now with a projection. And then the dubious notion at the same time is that parents who says, I have a 5-year-old, I have a 9-year-old, I have a 10-year-old, I need to have insurance on them, because especially in the African American community and depressed communities with the violence and the crime, the best of us, we're not even in gangs. We're walking down the street. In fact, I was just on the news today, said a young man was sitting on his porch or standing outside, and a bullet came out the sky and hit him in the head, and he died. Because
Wow.
It was a stray bullet from somebody shooting in the air on the 4th of July. And
Right.
the bullet went in the air, however they shot, came down in the next door neighbor, whatever, and hit the young man, he's 17 years old, in the head, he's dead. So that means, wow. With stray bullets, in certain communities, it almost like behoove us that if you have when your child is born, I'm taking out insurance. Now, before that, we didn't think like that, did we?
No, we didn't. And the thing about, especially in the Black communities, is that we have the most elaborate funerals.
Oh, yes.
Even though we don't have the money, we don't have the policies. In other cultures, people that have a lot of money, like for instance, I have a friend who, she does home health care. So she takes care of a lot of the wealthiest people. And some of these people are Jewish people. And when they pass away, even though they have a lot of money and they have these huge policies, they have the very humble what they call homegoing services. It's a wooden little box.
Within 2 to 3 days.
Right, in 2 to 3 days. It's not all fancy. They don't have all of the bells and whistles that we have when we go away. So now you have in the Black community a single mother that don't have a policy, don't have any money, but this funeral is going to be very elaborate, very expensive funeral, a casket, the flowers, the hearse, you name it. It is the headstones, everything is very, very elaborate. So you're talking easily anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000 to bury someone, and you don't have a policy.
Now, that brings us to just an educative part, because in certain cultures, rituals are important.
Yeah.
Certain cultural places, funerals are rituals. It is beyond just that. It's the family reunion. It's people coming together.
The
it's
repast,
expectation.
the food.
It's a celebration.
Yeah.
It's all that. So that's the ritual of funeral. And I've got a couple of books that talk about different cultural types have different types of rituals. And so in the African American tradition, the funeral is a ritual. And you can trace our history in our country, in this country. The weddings, funerals, and birthdays.
And birthings.
And birthing.
Yeah, like,
we're going to have a shower.
Yeah.
Now, you mean you had what? You didn't have no shower? Well, you not, well, who are your friends? So, and then birthdays, you didn't get a cake or no ice cream? Well, come on. And then you got a wedding? Oh, the wedding may not last forever. And then funerals. Those are main rituals.
That's true.
In the African American, and where in certain other families, it may be different. But so therefore, because of that, even in our communities, so what do you say to certain of our communities, even now that you hear Dr. Akers, you all that are watching us, there's a number on that screen. You need to call that number while Dr. Akers is here, and she was doing the oils and the fragrances and the essential oils and the flower essences, the box essences. Now we're talking about, are you prepared? Are you prepared for life and liberty? A good man or a good woman, are you prepared for leaving inheritance for your children, but saying to the parents, are you prepared to be taken care of if something happened to your child, either by death because of natural causes of getting sick, or because they were in a situation where life and the vicissitudes of life happened to take a person out?
Yes, and what I would say is I realize that this is a tough topic and a tough space to be in. People don't want to talk about the possibility of expiring, but I submit that to be proactive about leaving an inheritance. Be proactive not to leave your loved ones holding the bag or making them, putting them in a place where they have to open up a GoFundMe account and still not able to meet the budget of a funeral. And now you got the pressure on your family. You're already in a space where you're tensed and everybody is really dealing with their own grief. Just being more proactive, not putting the stress on the local churches and that kind of thing, because a lot of times the local churches don't have the finances to put your loved one away when you can put aside a certain percentage of your income to be ready. And I'm willing to come out to sit with you to help you figure out what it is that you need, to work with you to see if there are any gaps in your final expenses. And the way to do that, just simply give me a call at 331-215-4884, and I will come out. And I'm even willing to come out to do workshops for different churches where we can sit and talk to the congregation about the topic as well.
And those of you that are not in churches, she'll come to your block club.
Yes.
Some of you all are not in churches. You have a business. You have a family, or you might want to have a barbecue cookout. Get some people together. You are a good gatherer of people, as you talk about at the family reunion, or you talk about at the hair salon or beauty salon. So we want to keep you in mind. Remember, life and living and death. God brings us into this world. He takes us out of this world, and we go into another world. Are you prepared for the transitions? Take your oils, your herbs, and your fragrances, and then prepare to leave a legacy. And until then, God bless you and be blessed.